multi-universal threats.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think Tenet is, other than Tom Baker, and of course I'm a Tom Baker fan because I was born in 1970 and I grew up watching Doctor Who on Channel 13, PBS. He was my Doctor Who, of course, as a kid, but I love Tennant. I think he's so good in the role.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
And also his companion in this, and oh god, I just had the page open and I can't remember either the actor's name or the character's name.
Martha?
Is it? Yes.
No, I think it might be Freema.
Freema Jimin. I believe is our or Jimin. I believe is our last name. She's great. She's really fun, and they're not really. They're only in the episode for bits. It's mostly
they're not the driving force, are they? Which I quite like. It's unusual. It's quite they really let the kind of the human characters come out and drive the narrative, which I really enjoyed, actually. Not that I don't enjoy the ones where Tennant is front and center, but it was quite refreshing, I thought.
And there's the other thing I was going to say, there's one line in it, and when I heard this line I said, man, did I pick the right episode of Doctor Who to watch. And Carrie Mulligan is talking about how she likes to go into abandoned places. And she says, I love old places. They make me sad. And her friend says to her, what's good about sad? And she says, it's happy for deep people.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that really hit me in the gut. Because I on Long Island by me, there's a couple of places that there's a couple of former mental health facilities, asylums, really, that were these gigantic, almost Kings Park had something like 150 buildings on it at one time, and they've been long closed. But I've done some urban exploring in them, and there's just something. Yeah, there's the beauty of nature reclaiming things and something like that. Like the beauty of death, decay, and regrowth, I guess.
Yeah. Also, I guess I heard that and thought, well, she means that you can't have happy without sad. Was that?
Well, yeah, that too, I think. Also, yeah, you got to have that duality, obviously. Otherwise, otherwise everything's just baseline mediocrity. If you don't have highs and lows, But
can I tell you one thing that got my hackles up with this?
Yes, please.
When bloody hell, I've forgotten her name now. Kathy? It's Kathy, isn't it?
Yes, Kathy.
Goes back in time.
Yes.
She wakes up in Hull in 1969.
Yeah.
Oh no, she wakes up in 1920.
1920.
She goes further back, and she wakes up and she asks this young man when it is, and he has a paper, and she reads it, and she is like, oh God, I've got to go sort stuff out, and she goes away. He just follows her, and she makes it clear that she doesn't want him to follow her. She doesn't want him to follow her, and then and she's like, are you going to keep following me? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And that's really creepy. And then it just cuts back to the main storyline, and then the next we hear of them is that they got married.
Yeah, that is kind of
not cool. That's not cool.
That is not a message.
Not a cool way to tell a woman that you like her. It's just to follow her until she gets tired. So yeah,
No,
just want to say that wasn't cool. Stephen Moffat. No, thank you.
well, when Steven's good, he's good, and when he misses the mark, man, wow.
It is a very good episode. It was just that one bit that I was just like, oh no,
Yeah,
oh no, no, thank
yeah.
you.
This is not
Definitely a bad
not
example.
appropriate. This is not appropriate for 2007. This is not appropriate for 1920. I mean, I was like, at least if he was just like, well, you're wearing breeches and riding boots, and where did you come from?
Yeah, like,
and
what is that jacket? Like, can I ask you about this beautiful leather jacket that's that's got a zip? Did we have those in 1920? I don't know, but like, surely there was something else that you'd just be like curious about, rather than just, no, I'm going to eat this apple and follow you. Like, it was just very creepy. Like, there was so many different ways that could have been framed, and it just didn't sit very well with me.
Yeah. The Weeping Angels is supposed to be the creepy part of this episode.
Exactly.
Not stalker guy that ends up marrying Kathy.
Also, and this to a lesser extent, the police guy did take her down into a basement to show her the cars of where everyone went missing, and then asked her to go for a drink with him and was quite forceful about it. And I was just like, oh, okay. This is a little bit weird, but
I listen. I tended bar in the South Shore of Long Island for on and off for 20 years, and I know a lot of cops, and that totally tracks.
Okay, oh gosh. But that was at least telling us that he was very charming and that she was into it,
and also that he's lied. He's lied to his superiors about a.
I know. Yeah, I was just like oh, cool. So you've just. Yeah.
Maybe the Weeping Angels are just like, no, we've had enough of this shit.
Maybe if she'd have just gone with the Weeping Angels, they were like, yeah, we're gonna get you somewhere safe. Don't worry. Maybe that's the twist.
Well, I did a little digging also when I found out there's a later episode, or maybe it's a Doctor Who book or something, that it turns out that the Statue of Liberty is one of the Weeping Angels, or is that a later episode?
I think that's a later episode.
It's a later episode, yeah, where they go to Manhattan and it turns out the
but it's genius, right? I mean, that's, because they kind of suggest that at the end of the episode, don't they? They cut to a few different statues around London, and they're like, maybe this one, maybe this one.
So, but if I get a chance to have you back on, maybe we'll do that episode of.
I'd love that.
Because I love watching anything that's Manhattan centric. I really love to check out. All right, so once again, folks, you can Doctor Who. It's in the U.S. I believe it's on IMDb. It's listed as season 7, episode 5. I could be completely wrong on that. And
I just googled because I rewatched it. I just googled Doctor Who Blink, and it came up with a bunch of places I could rent it. So.
If I had more listeners, I'm sure I'd get some hate messages about that. But I mean, the shows, we're just building. We're building now. So yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna ask Rachael what's on your shelf, where we discuss what our guest is enjoying, whether it's a television show, film, music, comic book, regular book, whatever they happen to be enjoying right now. This is The Literate Nerds, and we'll be right back. Nerds. Welcome back to The Literate Nerds. I'm joined today by comic book creator, illustrator, writer, Rachael Smith, and we're going to ask Rachael, what's on your shelf? What are you currently enjoying? What content are you absorbing at home right now?
Well, I recently read Stepping Stones by Lucy Knisley. and it is a delight. I am late to the party with this book. I know that because it came out in May last year, but I've only just read it, and it's amazing. And it is going to be part of a series as well, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, it's very much based. Do you know Lucy Knisley? Do you know her work?
I wish I could say I do. The name sounds
Right.
so familiar, but please.
She did Relish, a book about cooking. She is very active on Instagram and social media, making comics about her little boy pal. That's her name for him for social media.
Yeah.
And she makes a lot of comics about her cat Linny, who sadly died last year, I believe. And now she makes comics about her cat Rhino. So yeah, she's kind of known about as the lady that does comics about cats and babies.
As you know, I'm a huge fan of comics about cats.
Yes.
I mean, Flimsy. I love Flimsy, and whenever Rufus makes an appearance in Quarantine Comics, I'm always excited. So yeah, comic books about cats, I'm down for. Absolutely.
Well, there are some cats in Stepping Stones. You'll be glad to
That's
hear.
good to know.
So it's a story about based on Lucy's childhood. It's about a girl called Jen who her parents get divorced, and she ends up going to live on this farm with her mum and stepdad, and her two new stepsisters. And as you can imagine, they don't really get on very well at first. And Jen doesn't really like this new life. She wants to go back to the city with her dad, where there are comic shops and art shops and, just shops rather than on this farm where there's nothing. But she slowly learns to love her new environment. And it's very, very wholesome. It's Lucy's first YA graphic novel. And it's just a delight. I say it's a YA novel. I enjoyed it as a 36-year-old woman, so it's for all ages. But yeah, it's very, very good. And my only regret is that I didn't read it as soon as it came out.
Well, I love a lot of young adult and
Me too.
Yeah, a lot of that content I love. I was talking a couple episodes ago with Jamal Igle, and Jamal Igle did a book called Molly Danger, specifically because he wanted a book that his then 12-year-old daughter would have a main character that she could relate to. And it's also one of the coolest superhero books you've ever seen. Molly's, basically she's she's like, almost a super soldier kind of thing, Superman level powered hero, but she's a 12-year-old girl and she doesn't age and she's stuck at that age, but meanwhile she can knock somebody into orbit. and the character designs are fantastic. Molly's got these great side pigtails, and this kind of tracksuit kind of looking superhero costume. But the villains, there's two villains in particular that I love. One of them is Medulla, who is basically this kind of armored robot suit with a fish tank on his head with just a brain floating in the fish tank.
Like medulla, like the part of the brain?
Yes, like medulla oblongata. Yeah.
Right, okay.
And he's got this it's got basically a robot suit that's, super strong and, can fly and shoot blasts and stuff like that. And then the other villain is Little Cavey, who is basically kind of like the old newspaper strip Alley Oop.
Okay.
Or and a little bit of Little Abner kind of. He's like this, caveman that's walking around barefoot, and he's, he's basically Alley Oop or Captain Caveman if he were a super villain.
Okay.
Running around with this gigantic club and destroying 18 wheelers and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, Jamal's great. And I had mentioned also The Wrong Earth is the other book that Jamal is currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.